is I want to do a little bit of a deep dive into Bassai Dai, if that's cool with everyone. Right, and so it's only over an hour and a half, it's into Bassai Dai, and what I want to talk about is just mainly to do with the timing of the kata, is what I want to theme it around, but we'll go through some bits and bobs, some variations, some playing, a couple of drills that help you develop it, okay? So that's the general plan for today. If you don't know the kata, neither do I, I'm making it up as I go, okay? Okay, so from here, just nice and relaxed, all I want you to do is step forward, hidari zenkotsu gerambarai, hey, kamae. Good, now from here, just make Yaksuki, rotate the hip, Yaksuki, pushing it off the rear leg, each. Good, from here, Kazamazuki, allow the hip to drive it, knee. Good, each. Knee. Each. Knee. Each. Knee. Each. Knee. Each. Knee. Each. Knee. Good. Switch other side. Good. Really pay attention. Make sure that you're not click, bang, click, bang. Make sure hip, body, action together, right, as they go. You want to ideally hit the opponent while your hips are still in motion, right? So from here, making Yaksuki, itch, knee, itch, knee, itch, knee, itch, knee, itch, knee, itch, knee. Good, and relax up. Okay, one other thing I'm just going to point out, it's something just to think about. Make sure that when you make the Yaksuki, that you're not just rotating, you're not just standing here going, hip, hip, hip. What you should be doing is using this rear leg and this push off the floor to rotate the hip forward and into your target each time. So you're hitting them with your body, you're slamming a door shut, right? It's doing this. It's not turning about an axis down the middle. So make sure you're rotating through the shoulder and make sure that it's coming from this rear leg. The pump of this leg into the hip is what you want. So really think about that as you do this and ensure that the timing's there with the technique. Your hip only moves from here to here, but your hand has to go all this distance. So this has to move really fast, right? Don't slow your hip down to catch up with your arms. Just speed your arms up, okay? And the way to do that is relax them. You could almost just put them here, just relax, rotate the hip, click up. Oh, then from here, just relax and rotate the hip, up. Likewise from here, when you go to the Kazamazuki, don't just rotate through the center. You can, but ideally, push off this rear leg again, push again, and you use that to drive in. So it's kind of like you're walking. As I go, I start in humming like this. I slam the door shut, then I push off this leg again, to open. And I'm constantly kind of moving towards you. So feel here, then feel it push in. You want that rear hip. Then push, then push. So even though the hip and the leg remains fairly stable, you want that action off the rear foot. And transmit that all the way to fit to whichever fist. A few more from Yaksuki. Ish, ni, sam, shi, go, rok, shich, hach, kyu, chu. Good, switch feet. Same, bit different. Ready? Think, rear leg push. And there's a question all of you should be asking me thinking that I've lost it right now. We'll get to that question. Don't worry, I haven't lost it. Push off the rear leg each time. Slam the door shut. Slam it open. Ready? Ich, ni, sam, shi, go, rok, shich, hach, kyu, chu. Very good, and relax. So something that you're asking straight off the bat is, well, wait a minute, JD, if I'm sort of closing the door here and then opening it, then closing it, then opening it. How do you maintain your form in the center? How do I do it without moving my feet? What you've got to do between each technique, between each punch, the only part that matters when you hit them, does it matter if I sit here and I punch through and I drive through and I penetrate through and I hold it there? Does that really matter? Not really. It's just that initial impact in. Then I can relax. So as you make this hit, I'm making these minor pieces. I'm making it not here, and holding, and then holding. I'm hitting, and just my body relaxes. I hit, and then my body relaxes. And these are really small micro adjustments. They're not big. It's here, but then I feel myself just relax back. I hit here, then I feel it relax back. I hit here, then I relax back. Here, then I relax back. It's not an intentional movement. It's not it's not this. It's simply a part of me breathing as I make my technique. As I make it, I grab, and then I either breathe in or I continue to breathe out. Watch. There. See, it's boom, and I let it go. 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 So all of my energy, remember, I'm hitting the person at about the 80% point of my technique. Here. This needs the extra drive in, and then I just let it go. I hit them here. There's the hit. Then I let it go. When you talk to Steve Ubel, what he says is there's two phases to a technique. There's the acceleration phase, this, and then the impact phase. And any of you that have hit a makawara know this, right? You don't aim just for the surface, you dig it in a little bit, right? So it's speed, and that gets you up to the 100%. You're at as fast as you'll go at the 80% mark. That last 20%, which is about the length of your fist, there's that last try, and then I relax it back. And then I relax it back. Once it's hit from 80 to 100, I can then breathe in, and it just relaxes back. Does that make sense? So allow yourself to drive forward, and then let yourself become neutral. So what I want you to do is I want you to really just let go. And we're going to overemphasize it to get it. So what I want is you're going to stand here. Your hands are going to be just by your sides. You're going to rotate your hip. Make Yaksuki from here. You're going to slam the door shut. The arms are just going to noodle. They're going to fire in and then relax. Then fire in and then relax. Fire in, then relax. Fire in, then relax. And see how I'm emphasizing the relaxation? See how I'm emphasizing that? So it's about here, loose, whammo, then, and then relax, and then just let it drop. Then relax. Whammo, then relax. Whammo, then relax. This feeling, ready? Hey. Rear hip. Ish, relax. Knee, relax. Sun, relax. And listen to my breath. You can hear, not that you hear this. It's that at the end, let everything go. Don't hold the tension in your body. Okay, because we're going to use that in a sec. Ready? Ish, knee, some, she, go, oh, chish, hutch, two, switch, other foot. Same. Ready? Relax your arms, loosen noodly, hip goes, make the shape. hip goes. And those who train with me regularly, when I throw my hip, I'm not like this. I'm being very conscious of where my elbows go. So when I throw, they go by my body. When they throw, my elbows connect. My elbows connect. So as I throw, it's here, straight in. As I throw here, in. You know what I mean? So I'm still controlled. They're not, you know, just flapping around. I'm not doing an 80s dance. But as I throw, hip goes, body goes, technique goes. Hips go, body goes. So keep control of your elbows. Think elbows in, yeah? Right, other side, ready? Chudan Yaksuki first. Ich. Think of the hip. Think of the hip and the rear leg pushing. Then immediately let it go. Knee, push, let it go. San, push, let it go. Shi, push, let it go. Go, push, let it go. Chich, push, let it go. Hach, push, let it go. Chi, push, let it go. Good, try and keep the hip position relatively in the same place. Keep the hip position relatively in terms of Hami and Shaman. So let it fire, but let it just relax in the legs. Let everything just kind of this feeling. Chi. Relax. Straight away relax. Drop your arms. Go, pop, relax. Chi, pop, relax. Hach, pop, relax. Chu, pop, relax. Chu, pop, relax. Good, and relax out. Okay, from here, now what I want you to do is use that relaxation, wham, use the relaxation down to immediately go into the next technique. So it's this idea, and your normal relaxation, as soon as I use that, and start breathing again, use that to immediately go to the next technique. So it's this idea of, and in that pa, use it as your next technique. As you breathe, watch. Use the next one. But notice how I'm using it. My hips are what's driving. My hip, push, push. I'm doing a double pump of the leg. Push, push. This feeling. But the connection with my body is here. Then I relax it. Use that to go into the next technique. Use it one and the other. Because what you notice is as you relax, what naturally happens, some of you were doing this naturally, you were here, as you relax, oh look, my hip, it just pulled back a little bit, it just moved in the direction of the next technique, and I went with it. So use that sort of, and I call it the string puppet approach. Here he is, hi everybody. I use this, oh he goes floppy flop. Well this one, use it flop flop, flop flop, flop flop, right, to move. So as he goes, feel, connect, as you release, as you relax, use that for the next one. So it becomes this breath of feeling, feeling. Does that make sense?
So no inwards breath, it's squeeze, it's like you're breathing out, relax, out again.
Yeah, so it's like so when you make intra-abdominal pressure, the way it works, and the way I describe it kind of in my books, it's the easiest way to do it. It's like your abdominal, because what you want to do is you've got this soft squidgy bit, right? Between this, which is all muscle, and this part, which is all muscle. And so it's about connecting your legs to your upper body, and you do that by using intra-abdominal pressure. If I pick up something really heavy, like this chair, it's going to be here, and I'm going to flex my stomach to lift it, right? And you do that naturally, right? So what that is, it's if I have a balloon that's in the middle, and it's surrounded by a wire mesh bag. If I push down on the top and the bottom of that balloon, it's going to push against the sides of that wire mesh bag and create a solid mass. When you relax that, it's about relaxing it and then re-engaging it. So it's this idea of as you go. There's the mesh rubber band here, relax it, then push, right? Because you've basically got the total amount of air that you can have in your lungs, and you can make until you run out of breath. If you notice in hand shodan, I'm out. That's why the ki is there, right? If you could also do this on an in-breath as well. In that particular case, what you do is you push down on the front diaphragm, you build this, but instead of using the exhale, you use an inhale to push down on the diaphragm. That creates the same tension. So you can do it on both an out-breath and on an in-breath. It does the same thing. It's about using your diaphragm, the solid block of muscle, flexing here, flexing here, flexing here, pushing down on that plastic, on that balloon. And you can either use your diaphragm either in an out-breath or an in-breath. Doesn't matter which. Okay? Easiest way is hit things, hit people to feel the difference between the two, but you'll find they both work equally as well. So from here, feel, this time it's going to be itch, it's going to as soon as you relax, instead of thinking relax or allow it to relax, you'll feel a natural tension in your body to squeeze back. As soon as you feel that relaxation in the hip, immediately use that to push off the leg and throw the next technique. So it becomes here this idea of this feeling, pump, pump. Use the relaxation to fire the next technique. And a lot of karate is set up this way, to use the relaxation of the movement before to drive you into the next technique. So you don't have to each time this. You can simply, easy. They just mow, they go naturally together, right? They move naturally together, right? So from here, get number 8. From here, 2 punches, bang, bang. Throw the first one, my advice, think about only the first one. Throw the first one, relax as you just were, and then immediately, as soon as you feel that relaxation, just fire the back leg, fire the hip to make the second punch. Don't worry about hitting your opponent, worry about moving your hips, worry about the relaxation and the drive between the two. Ready? Your turn. Hey, ish. Good. And again, start from a nice relaxed position. Knee. Good. Make sure strong in that first one. You've got to hit that first one hard. Chi. Bang. Pop. Chi. Pop. Pop. Good. Now, Matthew last, as I saw you, as you went, don't feel like I am a karate robot. Your punches don't have to go from there. Let the elbow just drive it on the trajectory you want, right? You don't need to pull here to go. Just allow it to, in. As long as it's thrusting by the end, you're all good. Ready? Chi, pop. Good. Now pay attention to where your hips are going, right? So if it's here, make sure they are in. This feeling. Not, you know what I mean? That defeats the purpose. Pump, 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 pump. Right? Hit them back with the Yaksuki thing. And then you hit them again and knock their head clean off. You see it roll down the hill. Right? It's not going to do that if your body center is moving backwards. Drive them both in. Chi! Go! Good. Oh! Nice big hip action. The hips are what drives, the back leg is what drives all of this. Your arms are just noodles. They've just got to get in the right shape. Chi! Go! Good, switch feet. Moichido. Other side again, relax it. One. Here. This feeling. It's in your breath, and it's the release of your breath, the release of the diaphragm that allows you to move and allows you to oscillate between the two techniques, that allows you to connect the two techniques. Does that make sense? It's about that. Ready? Yaksuki, Kazamazuki, ish! Ni, pop, pop. Good. San. Good, and as you do the Kazamazuki, immediately you're here, and you go, wait a minute, what's next? What else could I do? It feels like, as you relax out of the Kazami, it feels like you could do something else, doesn't it? And that's the point. It's about chaining these techniques together. Boom, boom, oh, there's the next technique. Or it might be here. Boom, pow, oh. It's about feeling that hip relax and using that relaxation to shift to the next technique. Use the relaxation to shift into the next technique. Like a kangaroo. Any Australia jokes, you're in trouble. But like a kangaroo, bouncing along. That's how your karate should feel. Right? Doing, 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 doing. Ready? Chi! Go! Log! Cheech! Hatch! Good. Hey, and relax. Very good. So this principle, this idea of relaxing and allowing the hips to relax into the position, into the technique, is inherent throughout Bassai Dai. When you think, if you ever watch a brown belt fighting, and I'm sorry for the brown belts, and sorry Pauline, I'm just apologizing in advance, right? But and Veronique, right? She's going to slap me. It's okay. Good thing I'm safely here in Virginia. As you switch from technique to technique, when you look at a typical brown belt fighting, this is how they fight, right? It'll be here or there's no multiple chaining of techniques together. That's the one-hit wonders, right? And so Bassai Dai, one of the reasons that's placed where it's placed, and quite frankly, you don't often see that chaining of techniques together until people are in the Shodan Nidan stage, right? By Nidan, it's got to be there, right? But brown belts, as they're developing, you're looking for that single final sort of technique. That chaining of techniques comes in the same way, using the same method that we just used, is why Bassai Dai is used as the kata for brown belts quite often. Because it's allowing you to chain techniques together. Whether it's uchukes, whether it's punches to blocks, whether it's this to that. And the key to it is not in using your arms, it's in using the hip action, the connection of the technique, and then the release of that technique in a loose and mellow way. Okay, so that's what I want to do today, is I want to go through Bassai Dai with this feeling in mind, that idea of relaxing from technique to technique. That's what I've set you up for here. But this basic technique that we've done, and that action of connecting, pumping the leg, creating the strength where it should come from, right? Having noodle arms, connecting the technique, and then relaxing it to flow into the next technique, which is what we've just done. That's the secret to Bassai Dai, right there. Right? So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to do Bassai Dai with that in mind. Does that make sense? And we're going to use that to develop the timing for the kata. Sound good? If you don't know Bassai Dai, right, that's okay. Again, we'll make it up as we go. Okay, let's go. So let's go through the entire kata. I'm going to do it from my best side, which is this side, just so that those who don't know can follow. We'll go through the whole thing once, and then we're going to break it apart. And I promise I'm not going to spend 45 minutes on the first move, even though I usually do. I'm not going, it'll be 1 minute, I promise. Okay, from here, hey yoi. So hands just here, nice and relaxed. Ready? Hey, ich, ni, sam, shi, go, oh, shich, hach, kyu, ju, ich, ni, sam, shi, go, rok, shich, hach, kyu, ju, ich, ni, sam, shi, go, rok, shi, hach, kyu, ju, ich, ni, sam, shi, go, rok, shich, hach, kyu, Some. She. Yummy. Good, heels. Everyone was good? Yes, no? Flash. Okay, excellent. Veronique's like, I just forgot the whole kata, it's all good. No, you didn't, I saw you. Okay. So, the whole kata is about this idea of loosening the hips, having them relaxed, creating tension when necessary, but immediately relaxing them off. If I could describe Bassai Dai as a feeling, and I have to describe a feeling through my body, it would be it'd be this. It's about allowing the hips to move where they want. And you've inherently done this in other kata. If you look at hand sandan, for example, here, when you drive up and use the hip for the uchuke geramrai, you drive, there's a movement to the hip. When you're here, if you hold this still, it becomes just arm action or shoulder action. There's an inherent action in the hip because my legs have to drive off the ground. It's not big, but it's there. I'm emphasizing it for you. As I move, watch my belt. There's an action. There's an action. There's an action in my obi. I'm using this, but I'm not forcing my hip. I'm not this. I'm just this. It naturally happens. And then redriving. Tiki shodan. We're here. We've just done the uchuke. There's an inherent movement to the hip that moves in sync with our elbows, doesn't it? You don't stand here and do it, right? It's impotent. You use your hip. You use your hip. You use your hip throughout the kata, even when your hip should be prone. So this is about embracing that movement. All right? So let's do the first move. What I want you to think, and I know there's more ways to do this first move than what I have shoes or socks combined. We're going to do it, whichever way you do it, there's some important points. Generally, there's some sort of preparation. Whether it's here, whether it's here, whether it's here, whether it's in and out. I don't care what you do, but what I want you to listen to is listen to your elbows. Look at how they move and look at the slight micro movements that your hip makes. It doesn't turn back, that's a different kata. That's Bassai short. But in this, there's micro movements that happen to the hip. Pay attention to those. Then as you step, we're just going to go into Zenkuts. Feel micro movement, relax, then feel a rear leg drive and connect. Just like so. Ready? So stand up. Make the beginning position. Ish. Good. If you're a clever clogs and know lots of them, try lots. Knee. Some. She. Good. Right? So what you can feel here is you can feel an action of the hip, a drive of the leg, and a connection. But hang on, this kata is done in kosodachi. Kosodachi in this case, remember how I talked about the velocity, the speed phase, and the impact phase? This is the speed phase. This is the impact phase. Does that make sense? This technique hits is zuki. It's a thrusting technique. So therefore, whichever way you go with your arms doesn't matter. You form the connection here, and then the body drives it the rest of the way. So what you want to do is use that, imagine, touch, then drive. Again, my elbow doesn't expand out and come back or anything like that. It's simply my hip with my body. My hip come into position, my body drives the technique, and I reconnect it through my lats, through my pecs, into position. So it's about timing. It's not about this sort of making everything like Yaksuki. It's about this idea of forming and connecting. Forming and connecting. Because it's a thrust. Let's try. Ready? Ish. Good, and back. Knee. Good, and back. Sun. Good, and back. Now make sure that as you make the connection of the stance, it connects. Make sure you're not just standing relaxed. Squeeze through your hip. Squeeze your bum bum to connect your body together. Right? Make sure that there's inside tension, that you're pulling your feet together to make that drive. Right? The action is almost, again, it's fluid, but the action is this. So use that. You know what I mean? Again, it's more fluid, it's more, it's not one then two, but the timing and the feeling is the same as it connects. One more time, ready? Hey, hitch. Good, one more. Knee. Good. One other quick comment. Just make sure whatever you do for your load, I don't care what it is, don't do this. And then, ta-da! You know what I mean? Make sure that your hip leads throughout the technique. Your hip and your elbow lead throughout. They don't come under and then swing under. They remain up and connect. Does that make sense? Keep that. One more time. Itch. Good. One more. Knee. Good. Okay, now, remember how we had bang and then you relaxed? Remember that? So it was a boom, then relax into the next technique. This time, I want you to hit the technique, hit the connection with your breath. So it's here. Then feel the next technique wanting to happen. So as you make that squeeze and connect, feel the next movement, that it's already there. It's already in place, it's all ready to go. It flows naturally on. From me squeezing here, as I relax my hip, as I relax the tension out of my legs, because I've just hit, it naturally turns into the next technique. Does that make sense? It naturally flows. So let's make that, ready? So it's going to be here, it's going to be then round. Feel it bounce out. Boom, then round. As you release the technique. It's up to you how long you hold this, but when you relax, feel, there. Ready? Hey, ish. Then straight in, knee, boom. Good, and back. So it's not two techniques. It's not then one, then two. It's just here, then I relax, I immediately go into the next technique. It immediately relaxes me into the next technique. Does that make sense? So it's this connection, release. Then you're going to be all the way out here. As soon as I release this, what's going to happen? My hip turns. Then just release it. Technique goes. And I'll give you a couple of tips to help with that relaxation. Ready? From first position. Each. Then automatically relax into the next technique. Good, good. Try again. Each. Good. Immediately relax. Good. One more. Sun. Boom. Feel hope. Good. And relax. Excellent. So notice how it's not a product of three individual. It's just, how about that? That's how you want it to feel. It should feel natural in terms of the action. Now, I'm going to give you, let's try it with all three. So it's going to be here. It's going to be that initial drive. So you feel it, feel it just this way. Boom, boom, boom. boom, boom, boom. And you're going to notice that the natural timing of the kata says boom, boom, boom. Oh my goodness, hand short on anyone? But anyway, as you do this, feel that natural connection here. Notice how it's 1, 1, 2. Do you know why that timing exists? Simply because here, for me to get here to here is going to take longer. From here to here, it's a shorter action. It's going to be shorter. That's why the first movements are boom, boom, boom. But they're done boom, pom, pom. It's not because you're boom, hold, muck around, boom, boom. It's just by virtue of the technique that the timing's created. So let's try all 3 first techniques. Ready? Hey. And on 1 count. Ich, pom, pom, pom. Good. And back. Try again. Knee. Good. 1 more. Sun. Good. Excellent. So one thing that will help you a little bit, when you're here, when I come around, keep close. When you go to make that uchuke, the next one, the third one, make sotuke first. Have the feeling as your hip releases down, just let this come in, let it go opposite direction. And what you'll find is that that will naturally flow you into the next technique. So rather than sort of holding it here, relax and then go, oh, I'm doing something funky with my arms. Leave this where it is and just let it relax into where it naturally wants to go. There's a lot of that in this kata. So as you're here, just make soto. Have the feeling of making sotuke, hook, but squeeze, the hip will naturally move. Hip will naturally move easier as you go. Does that make sense? So as you make that boom, 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 just add a sneaky soto in there, okay, and feel the difference. This is something I picked up off Steve Ubel. He let me know on that one. And it really helped me connect that second and third movement together well. So from here, 1, 2, 3. Each. Back, relax, relax your action. Again, some of you are getting stiffer. E, E, E. No. Here, connect, feel hip release. Oh, there's my hip. There it goes. Hop. There's my hip. Oh, let it go up. Hop. That's easy. And then, just let it go. Ready? Itch. Good. 1 more. Sun. Okay. I'm going to let the clever clogs. If anyone wants to try this, be very careful. Okay, as you do. This is something I struggle with. So if you have knee troubles, ankle troubles, hip troubles, do not do this. This is something for some of you who want to try, Marcello's very fit, very strong, let's watch him fall on his butt, right? So this is one of those things. Another way to think about those second 2 techniques is if you're here, you can make the first technique, then turn the second, turn the third, without putting the foot down, right? But have your hip go all the way around, right? Then turn. And it's the same feeling, right? So the beginning of my kata looks like this. Boom, boom. Notice how I'm connect here, but I connect here this way, then I connect and squeeze the hip up. This is good hip training. This is not how you do the kata, but it's another way to develop the kata. Notice what I'm saying here. Don't run out on a Dan exam and do that. They'll look at you like you are mental, okay? But use it to develop your hip strength and body movement in the kata, the definition. And notice it puts a lot of drive and a lot of strain into that rear driving hip. But that's the point, okay? So try if you want. Otherwise, do it how you were just doing it. Ready? Ish. Good. Now make sure, for the last technique, remember, we're winding up for the next technique, right? You've already got to be thinking about movement number 4 and 5. So when you hit, Movement number 3, make sure you're in Gyaku Hamae, because guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to release this in the next movement to turn. So don't just come here where it's comfy. Squeeze it. Go to the full position. Then you're going to release it round. Right? So prepare now for that next movement. Prepare in the kime of that movement before for the movement that comes after. Does that make sense? And then the kata flows together. Okay, try again. The same way that you prepared for the movement before with the movement that comes after. The same. I'm prepping for the turn here. I'm prepping for here. I'm prepped here. The movements naturally follow with the twisting of your body. Okay? Try again. First 3 only. You can try it with the leg up or leg down. Think about the last movement, that last position. You should feel a torque. And when you relax out of it, you should feel this natural will to go into the next movement of the kata. Does that make sense? You shouldn't have to, I've got to move. It should be, it should just almost happen. You have to stop it. Ready? Ish, boom, pum, pum, then be ready. Good, ready? Again, last one. Ish, nisam, good, excellent. So now, once you're round here, just allow this to release. Whoa, it just goes. Just with this tension, just lift the back foot. I'm here. How about that? That's cool. You know what I mean? I don't have to do anything. My body's already twisted up. I just let it go and it goes into where I want it to go. Right?
Sensei, are you pulling your front foot back for that second block?
Yeah, well...
Or are you thrusting it forward?
Yeah, so depending on which way I'm doing it, the intent is forward. But depending on my flexibility on the day, right, the front foot is always the one that shifts back. Why? Because the rear one's the anchor and the driving leg. When I do this slowly, less excitably, I will be here, and because I'm not flexible enough to turn this all the way around, notice my heel's coming up, right? So what I do to prevent my heel coming up, I simply shorten the stance, and that allows me to rotate my foot. So when you because you're moving into Gyaku Hamae, but my feeling is forward. When you go into Gyaku Hamae, the thing that a lot of people forget about, and just watch my back foot. A lot of people will go from here, they go into Gyaku Hamae, they pull this, but notice how I've kind of left this foot behind? It's like an anchor, and it's kind of like a zombie, right? What you've got to do is you've got to be active in this rear foot. So as I turn, it's not just this foot pulling back, this shoulder drives forward if I can, but the thing that's really active here, it's a push. It's a push here. So what I do with this foot is I turn it. With that extra distance that I come back, that extra room I've got in my hip, that affords me the ability to turn my foot, to either point it straight ahead or if I'm more flexible, slightly inward, which connects the stance. Instead of it being this or this, it connects it in this way. And you can see the drive, if I get a stick, you can see that the drive of my rear leg, when I'm here, when I'm in normal stance, it's here. When I'm in Shoman, it's here. When I go to Gyaku Hamae and my hip turns, now see the angle the stick's pointing at. You see what I mean? So it's about that engagement of that back leg. As you make this, and the only way I can do it is by shifting my hip in. Again, it's not one then two, right? It's as everybody knows, it's about as the connection. This is all dealing with stuff in front, right? And then when I want to add the bite, the flavor, the ghost pepper, my back foot fires, my drive happens, and there's the technique. Okay? So that timing that you've heard all the way along, none of that changes. When I'm doing this as a one action, it's really hard and it looks like I'm shifting forward, and I am. Right, that's what I mean. It's not correct to the kata, but it's a good training aid to develop technique, to develop the importance of this hip and this leg and build strength. Okay, so from here, 1, 2, 3, then turn, 4. Feel it squeeze right up, turn this. Work this foot. Don't be comfortable here. Be comfortable here with this back leg. Turn it. Then you're just going to expand it the rest of the way. You see what I mean? One technique leads to the other. Right? When you look at this kata and the beauty of Bassai Dai, here, whoa, there's the twist. Whoa, I let it go. Oh, I let it go. Oh, I let it go. Oh, I let it go. Oh. Now, rewind. Oh. You see? It develops that for you. The movements practically, if you've got the hip action right, they practically do themselves. You don't have to do anything. You see what I mean? Right, let's try it. Ready? So, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Feel the end point, twist yourself into knots. That equals good. Then let the knot go into the next technique. Twist yourself into knot, let it go, whoa, into the next technique. But it's got to come from your hips and legs, not your arms. Your arms are just noodles. Ready? 1 count, whole thing. Ish. Good, again. So, be very clear, one thing that's important, I just caught some of you, level 1, everything's levels, right? Level 1, be dang certain you know where your hips are supposed to be when. Whether in Hami or Shoman. Hami, Hami, Gyaku Hamai, Gyaku Hamai, Hami. Nothing less. Hami is not where it's comfortable, it's where you're opened right up. And those who were there on my Thursday evening class, right, this is what we taught. We did a lot of time talking about this whoop opening. Allow it to open. This kata is about developing movement. So let it develop your movement. It's not about arms, it's about where these go and how these drive them. Try again. Ready? Ish, knees, hum, shi, go. Good, again. One more time. Ish, pom, 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 pom. Good, excellent, excellent. Does it feel better? Yes, hopefully, right? What I'm going for here is to get you to feel something once. That's my point. Because if you feel it once, you can replicate it again. Does that make sense? You don't have to have this all by the end of the session. We're only training together for an hour and a half. But I want you to feel and understand what it should feel like. And nothing expresses that more in this kata than the first 8 or 10 movements. Right, so let's move on. So from here, get all the way to that sort of 5th movement, yeah? Ready? Hey. Now from here, you feel this nice expansion of the hip, right? Just let it go. Oh, it naturally happens. Then feel, squeeze, leave it open, then just let it go. Oh, right? The same way you did number 2 and 3, right? It's just repeating. So feel this feel the flavor of the kata, probably this way, is here, push, expand, expand. Notice I did the little uchuke in there. Expand, expand. Then here, as you're here, boom, just keep it going. Right? Uchuke, oh, it happens naturally. Then little uchuke. You see? So what the kata is doing, it's really clever. Watch. In, out, in, round in, then from here, just keep it moving. Keep it open, keep it open. And it naturally moves into the next action. You see what I mean? Now by relaxing, instead of relaxing it in, you relax it, out. You see what I mean? It's showing you both ways. That's why it's different. Right, from here, through that whole beginning sequence. Boom, 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 boom. So not boom, boom, An hour and a half later, feel boom, oh, there. It just happens. Then once you're here, feel the stretch, then let it go. Then let it go. And then we'll move into the next piece. Ready? All the way to that point. Oh,
Sensei.
yeah.
Could you explain this move a little more? This.
Just a step or the whole action?
This whole action to the first alpha block.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You bend the knees before, or you go straight like a straight line. Like
Oh, for the drop?
Or like rotating the hip.
You mean for here, just for the uchi the soto?
Oh, yes.
Just drop it. So a lot of people be here, you make a bend in the knees. Some people bend forward. To me, that makes no sense, right? Attacker here, kind of suicide, So I'll take it quite often in my knees and feel that scooping action. Boy, this kind of feeling. You'll see it in Kankudai, yeah? Right? So, but here, feel that action up. And then from here, just feel your hip simply thrust forward, right? This action is smooth and up, drive. You see what I mean? Use it within the theme of the kata. Notice in this kata, there are no drop and push actions really, right? They're not really present. So just feel it more direct and just push. And then let it explode out. That's how I do it. Some others may have different feelings on it, and that's totally cool. For me, and then hammer down. Whoa, expand and drop is the feeling. Okay? Right, all the way through, boom, boom, to there. Then we're going to come up. Ready? Hey. These are the hardest movements to get, but they flow the nicest, don't they? They feel really good when it's boom, 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 boom. Ready? Hey, hashime. Good. Now from here, you're in Gyaku Hamai, aren't you? So if I release that, I come up naturally. Right? I'm here, full expansion, in. Now just let it go. Lift the back leg. It does it by itself. It requires nothing. Right? So we're here. I'm in. Now just release. And whatever you do, don't this. Just feel from here. You're pushing up in this direction. Now just feel the leg. Feel the other one. Connect. Just squeeze. Turn your hips from this to this. Is the feeling. And use this hand to guide the timing. So it's boom. It's all there. And see how easy it is? Again, just feel inside tension. I'm pushing. Now just feel inside tension. Ooh, there. For that. Okay, ready? So here, squeeze and up. So again, you feel that you taste that sort of, here. It happens naturally. You see? It happens as part of the kata. There's nowhere else you could have gone. Now from here, this position, you've got a slight squeeze in the hip. But what I want you to do, what a lot of people do is they do the tate shito. They just put their arm out. They're just here and they just do this. What I want you to do is remember one move preps for the next. That's been the point. So we've spent the whole kata doing these massive freaking moves with our hips, setting them up in the extremes. Now set it up in the less extreme. As you expand out, I want you to do two things. Number one, I want you to push this hip forward and push out as far as you can with your elbow still seated in the socket. Your shoulder still seated in the socket. Let that out, but expand. So you've got this feeling of push off this leg, and this push of this, so you can feel a twist. And with this hand, just pull it back, just so slightly. So as you come up, look at my body movement, look at my belt. Here. See how it's subtle? And what you feel is you feel a stretch all across your body. You see what I mean? Now I'm not doing this. I'm doing this, this, so it's pushing forward, and this. So I've got 3 ways of tension. Forward, forward, back with this hand. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to release it. If you let that go, look what it does. It punches for you. You see? Paulina, yeah.
So when you do that, is the push at like the last second, or are you just pushing throughout the entire time?
It builds as I go. If I could draw a graph of it, it would be kind of like this. Whoa. So there's definitely more at the end. And when you look at like best karate, right? There were movements in kata where Nakayama described them as slowly building power. Start with less tension and build tension. The tension is not here. The tension is here where it builds. Does that make sense? And that's for all of these. Whether it's Sorchin, this, right? Or you can see it, just subtle. As I tense. Then feel it relax. Then release your hip. Then the technique happens. You see what I mean? So what you're doing here is I'm using my legs. These are active actions. I'm going to use this leg twice to pump. Boom, boom. 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 See my boom. Boom. Pump, pump. Same leg. You see what I mean? And that allows my hip to push. And I'll help you with the timing. My timing's a little different. I know there's different loads. I'm just showing you the way I do it. So from here, feel that expansion in. Release this hip, and then just slam it shut, feel the tension here, release it, punch. Then as you relax, as this comes in, don't whether you load it to here, I don't care. But all I want you to do with that action, with this action of the elbow, I want you to, right now you're at full tension, you push slightly, right, my hip is ever so slightly off angle, right? It's not square, it's slightly pushed in. Right, I'm talking like, a couple of degrees. Not here, here. As I release that, see how my hip relaxes back. This hip relaxes back. Now I'm going to use this leg to make the turn. You see what I mean? So it's this really neat essay in clear, defined body control. Push, pull. You release and push. Then release. And then drop. Then all the way up, same feeling. Notice I'm slightly over-rotated. You can see the knot on my belt is pointing in this direction for the drive. I release it. Boom, ba, boom, pa, then drive. So when it's done in real time, I'm literally bouncing my hips, but I'm coordinating my actions. I'm here, push, push, relax, boom. Push or relax, boom. Again, I'm overemphasizing it so you can see it, but this is the idea. Push, relax, push. Boom, relax, push. You see? So it allows me to do what I've done all the way through. And what I'm doing is as I drive, I don't need to shift my foot because I'm already long enough. All I need to do is rotate on my heel and rotate on the ball of my foot to give me the length of stance that I need. Right? I don't need to necessarily step it out. I just simply here and drop. Then I repeat it. Right? Does that make sense? This is different from how I do it in Kung Fu Dai. So those of you that are in Kung Fu Dai with me in the morning classes, it's just here, stiff, just arm, then drop the hammer. Not pump, relax and go. This one has that clear action of relax. Relax the hip. Then push. Kung Fu Dai doesn't. That's how I differentiate the two. So let's try from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. So have loose hips. So what you may need to do is you may need to, until you understand it, push, relax the hip, then push, relax, then push. You see what I mean? I'm thinking it always through my legs and hips to make the action. I'm not worried about my arms. I'm thinking about this. You see? This all is noodles. One more time. Ready? Ish. Me. Good. And think of it. How many times have you been in class where, you know, Joe 8th has said, use your legs. And you're like, well, what are you talking about? And you think they're only talking about this one. No, they're talking about the whole thing. Using this drive, using that. You see what I mean? That's what they're getting at. One more time, last one, then we'll move on. Hey. Ish. Me. Good. Now from here, feel the setup in this leg. Don't just, as you go, feel the action, the overwind to step. So again, you're set up. You're here, you're in a line, your hips are shomen. But if you look at if my heels are in line and I'm in shomen, I'm actually in gyaku hamai this way. Okay? It's a gyaku hamai feeling. So now as I turn, just let that go and let the hip go. It happens by itself. You see what I mean? You shouldn't need this big sort of shift in body weight over. It's simply allow the hip to turn and get you under. It's allow this hand, watch, doesn't even move in position relative to you. Watch this one. It's here, it's not moving back and shifting. It's simply, here's my opponent coming in, it simply winds and drives in. Because I'm going to a kokuts, I cut that narrow angle automatically. You know what I mean? I don't need to add in an extra movement here and go all slow to do that. Just use what the kata's taught you to now make the action. You see? Just use the kata, right? Because this would be going completely against what you normally do. So use the gyaku hamai, use the squeeze across the body, use that to release into the technique, and then step. Good. From here, one more. Hey, ish, 10. Good. Now from here, control your body weight, but have the feeling, connect. Then as you go, because you're pushed out, right, when you're in kokuts, when I was young, they used to tell me, push your knees out, push your knees out. That's not in vogue anymore. It's now push the outside edges of your feet out, right? So I'm kind of rolling on my feet, keeping them in contact with the ground, of course, but the feeling is like the edges of my feet are digging in. As soon as I release that, I automatically come up. You see what I mean? You use that extra hard push to then release into the next. So we're here. So use that for each one. And it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Ready? Ish. Me. San. Shi. Good. From here now, I could talk about this movement a lot. Just do it how you do it, but end up in gyaku hamai. Make sure your hip is all the way over. The technique does not work if they're square. You've got to end up in gyaku hamai. Okay? So however you do it, just do it. And I've done this at length, I think, in other classes. But from here, feel that expansion out. Now just lose it. And then let it come in. Now from here, feel this lift. You're going to create tension now to be able to make that drive. Don't not give the yoko fumikomegiri justice that it deserves. Don't not do that. So what a lot of people do is they sit here and go, and again, it's infinite. You're feeling, use the springiness in your body. See how I'm using that knee lift? My knee hit me in the freaking chest, right? And I'm old, right? Let that feeling here, up and down. Your feeling should be this. When you do the technique. Does that make sense? That's how it should feel. It should be this feeling of almost, you know, flying sidekick, right? So here, feel. Use that to bounce out. One quick word of caution, make sure don't overly straighten your leg, doing not good for your knees, joints. Control it, but have that feeling. Use the rubber bands to push. Ready? Ish. Good. Now one step forward. Knee. Right, from here, just turn around in the kata. Yeah, so we're all facing the same way, right? So I've come around, bang, bang, I've stepped forward, same story. Now from here, this feeling is the same. You know how this one kind of went down and built and eventually got stretchy? This next one is the same. You're expanded out, relax and more. Now feel here. And I'll give you some specific things to feel in a second. So from here, feel it expanding out. Think about it just relaxing in and then and then building again. Exactly how the hands feel. Now what I want you to do, once you finish that technique, is this part here. Don't just have these where it's comfortable. What I want you to do is I want you to stretch, not through the shoulders, but through the rib cage. Push your shoulders forward and up and expand here. Here, not lift, but here. Expand your chest upwards. I'm not arching my back, I'm just expanding up. I'm expanding up. Now what you notice is that there, a little bit extra, gives you this. How this feels is no different when you're an ISKF, when you're a brown belt going for black. Here you've got this big expansion. So feel this, and this through the rib cage, through the abs, up, then down. Sometimes in the good old days, some of you may be old enough to remember, right, there used to be a knee lift here. Now it's just expand and go, right? It's that little pop and go. But feel this, that's to give this that little bit extra forward. Oh, now I'm gone. You see as you compress. So from the shito, each, then knee. Now from here, feel how this is all sort of tight and compressed. Now just let your elbows go. Sun. You see? So it's this idea of expanded, compressed, expanded. This feeling. Let's try it, and it's the way I describe it, it's like you're falling down stairs. You don't just fall down one, you fall down lots as you hit. So it's here, then this feeling. Then you turn. Make sure that when you do that final expansion, don't let this hip go. It's Yaksuki. Push and squeeze in, because guess what? You're turning in the next action. So if you're here, then there's nothing to turn with. If you're here, and this is engaged, now there's lots to turn. You see what I mean? Go to the extreme of hip, Shoreman to Shoreman. Let's try that whole sequence. Ready? So, sorry, here. Expand up. Ish. Knee out. Good. Now, hip pushed all the way under, yeah? If you let that go, it naturally comes up. You see what I mean? With that full expansion in, it naturally comes up. You see? It's dynamic. So think, you're here, right? You've got that expansion out. Relax it, expand it up. Whoa, crunch. Expand and push. Now release, then release. You see what I mean? This is the feeling. So notice how it's this beautiful action of pushing to extreme and then relaxing into the next technique. Pushing into the stream and relaxing into the next technique. And I'll show you what this does for you in a second. Let's try that whole piece from the Shito. Ready? Each. Nisan, Shito. Oh. See how that dictates the timing. Let's carry on with the last few moves for this part. So we're here, right? So you've expanded up. Now I've got this big expansion across my chest. And the expansion is not this way and this way. I'm not doing this. I'm pushing it towards you and away from you. Someone's grabbing hold of my elbows and doing this. Then, when I relax it, it squeezes my body. Don't feel like you have to do this, and I'll add music because it makes it way cooler. Not this. Just feel, cover, and body happens. You see what I mean? Use this to drive the technique. You see what I mean? It's not a separate piece. By the time I'm here, by the time this is launched, my foot's off the ground, it's in. You see? I'm kicking that person's knee out so I can smash them in the face as they go down. Right? I'm here they come. Done. Finished. Next. You see? Yeah. Not broken down. You see, you lose that dynamicism that you want. Right? So this one is incredibly cool because the body, the shoulders for once, lead the hips. The torque is created from the other side of the body and then the hips catch up. You see what I mean? This is unusual for that. But allow it to happen. Allow it to, and then the hip stretch, here, there. And the whole thing finishes together. You see? My arms, in this case, literally drag my hips and my leg round to make the technique. My hips literally drag round to make the next technique.
Sensei,
Yeah.
I have a question. So your right arm goes around your body or over your head, like Sochi?
Whatever you feel strongest doing. What's your purpose in the movement? So for me, I'm covering my body. I just bring it straight in front because I have a cover here. I need a cover here as I come in and then drive it down. That's it. But it could change depending on what I need to do. Do you know what I mean? As long as I have a purpose, you may have an application where you've got a hold of their arm here, and what you're doing is you're kicking into the knee and then arm barring them in the opposite direction. In which case it would go low. You see what I mean? Straighter as well, actually, right? Yeah, it's just, you know what I mean? You can modify this action as long as it moves in sequence with the hip, but as long as it has purpose, as long as it's doing something. That's the rule. Does that make sense? But the kata says, right, the turn, the drop, strike here. This must happen. How you get there is undefined, actually. Okay?
Yeah, I was thinking more about the origin of the movement. So you go around your body, but I believe it's over your head, like Soshin.
Yeah.
The beginning, the end, it's okay. Huh?
Yeah, I've seen it. That being said, I've never done it that way. It's really whatever floats you, you know what I mean? My instructor was always very just get under and block. That's how I really, you know, when I broke it down to a base motion, get under block, done. Right, but it can, I've certainly seen the over the head to come down. But what purpose is that over the head doing for you? That's the question you want to ask.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we're here, expand, feel that shrinking. One more! Then, from here you're expanded into the Garambai, just let it go. And now rebuild. Good, okay. So let's go through, this sequence of the kata I think is critical. When I see people do this, right, and when I'm judging competitions, there's no life in this part of the kata for the majority of competitors. They will do this like this. We'll do it this way. Here we go, you ready? I'm a kata competitor. Technically it's okay, but there's no life. You can't see the springs working in their body. Instead, think of it this way. Spring, action. There's life. And all I'm doing here to give it life, I'm not adding any strength. I did them both as strong as each other. All I did was I listened to the strings in my body and let myself relax into the next movement. And that timing was born directly out of letting those strings go. Does that make sense? The timing in the kata is completely direct to using the movement before to predispose the next movement in the kata. The same way we did this. And there's a bigger sequence for you. So, your own time, listen to your body as you go. Feel the strings go taut, then just let them go. Come on. Let them go as you go, right? I've told you how, then you've got to figure out how to do it. That's the hard piece. So from the kokuts, ready? I'm just going to start you, get all the way to that position. Each. Try it again. Remember, for the most part, the action's happening in the legs and the hips. The hips over pushing and over pushing each time are what really give you that dynamicism, that dynamic within the kata. From the shito, one more time. Each. Good. Notice how it changes the cadence of the kata. Notice how the whole movement is not just one, 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 one. When you're listening to your body, it changes the action, right? And when you think of somebody who's really good, like Richard Amos Sensei, right? His pum-pa-pa kind of feeling. This is exactly what we're replicating here. This is exactly what we're doing. I'm just telling you how to do it. It's not a mystery. It's about using the technique before to ride you into the next piece. Okay? Right, so from here now, we're into the hand out. How I do this, again, I was under a very angry instructor for a very long time. The way and so don't do it my way if you have knee or hip trouble, okay? What I do is I do not move my foot on the floor for the Megazuki Giri. I only move it when I absolutely need to. There's a preponderance of people that will turn, lift, and hit. I do not. I move this like I get almost all the way to the kick, and then watch where my foot turns. right? And what that does is that increases the springiness in my hip. If you need to allow, so the only thing that I'm saying here, I hold mine, I have no knee or hip issues. I can do this. If you find that you hear any kind of ouch on your knee, simply let your foot go in the action of the kick. But the thing that you should not do is move it before you kick. Okay? By keeping the foot here, it creates on the action of the turn into the MP a certain springiness. You can actually almost listen to the head of my hand and the head of my hand. Listen to how close they are. It's here, almost as a single rapport. What a lot of people do, if you move your foot first, it's 1 and 2. You want it to be as much as possible 1. That's how you do it. You just don't move this foot. But what that does is that's developing the same way, boom, boom, that movement within to be able to create. So it's creating the torque. This is expanded out. I let this expansion go, which allows the hip to move, but then I've got this left over in reserve. You see, which I can use afterwards to get it round. Does that make sense? So let's try. I'm actually out of time, so if anyone has to go, you can go. We're going to finish the kata out, but the rest of it's easy. Ready? So from here. 1. Good. Now from here, as you make that push of the hip, allow the hip to push, just like tiki. Allow this hip to push forward. Allow this hip to push forward. Allow this hip to push forward. Then when you turn here, now make a push, make the angle. So it's here, 1, 1, 2, turn, push, in. Ready? One more time. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then expand back. Now as you make the drives here, feel. Then expand back. Then feel. In case you're wondering, it's the same, right? Then feel big turn, feel it come up. Again, I do it the same way Kanazawa does it. He taught me this way, and it's always been the one that works for me. I know there's other variations. Feel the torque, then let it go. Then feel the action, and let it go. There's about 50 timings to the hips here. I'm not going to do it today because I'm out of time. But again, allow the action. There's ones where they're here and they pull, and then there's ones where they're here and they go with, and then kind of turn back somehow. There's ones where they go with, and then connect at the end. It's whatever floats your boat, right? I can go through all of them, reasons why you might want to do all of them, but it's 12 o'clock already, and I'll get yelled at by all of you. Okay, so let's just go through those movements. Ready? Ish! Knee! Good. Now notice I'm almost in Gyakuhamai again. I'm turned. Just let it go. Just the same way that you here to here, allow it to just halfway and push. The step here is only halfway, it's not all the way up. So allow it to simply and twist. Ready? Ish! Then knee. And if you saw Amos Sensei in his karate at home, the one he just did, he was here, twist, pumpa. And he has this nice relax out. It's hard to do. For me, I'm still of the school, connect, then, Now I'm expanded this way, just let it go. And then you're up. Okay? Good. So what I want to do, Let's go through the whole kata. You're going to do it magore. What I want you to do is on each time, notice there's one trend. There's one thing that happens throughout this entire kata. Take your hips to completion. Whether it's hami, whether it's shomen, whether it's gyaku hamae, and allow that to guide you. Your arms are limp noodles, but make sure that your hips go to completion, and that will set you up for the movement that comes after. So allow yourself to think about that one concept. You all know the kata well. Allow the kata to then drive you through. Allow the kata to work for you. Does that make sense? Allow it to drive you. Allow it. There should be no point where you have to start from scratch, because something, as soon as you let it go, will run you into the next movement. And allow that to define the timing, the flavor, the tempo, everything with Bassai Dai. Last time through. Ready? Ayui. No count. Start yourself, finish yourself. Hey, Hashmi. Once you're done coming up. And so my hope is that the kata for you today evolved from a sequence of techniques to a living thing. It's living because it's just like your body. Every time I step on, my other foot moves forward. I don't need to think about that. As soon as I do my walking, organized falling, I simply, my foot moves, my foot moves, my foot moves. That's how Bassai Dai should be. I stretch. I move the foot. I'm here. I move. I'm here. This happens naturally. And if you just listen to the kata, it will tell you.